Have you ever noticed how quickly people fall in love with potential? How quickly they hand over their hearts, their energy, their focus to someone they barely know, simply because that person is attractive, charming, or gives them a rush of validation they've been starving for. Most people think love is about giving yourself fully the moment you feel a spark, that somehow early emotional investment is a sign of loyalty or depth. But let's be clear, attraction is not a green light for commitment. It is not a reason to overlook red flags. It is not a reason to ignore your standards or sacrifice your boundaries. If you emotionally invest before you vet, you set yourself up for chaos, heartbreak, and wasted years. You trade your peace for fantasy. You convince yourself you're building something real, but what you're actually building is a cage around your future, locking yourself into someone's potential instead of their reality. We live in a culture where people think understanding why someone is broken is a reason to stay, where they think they can heal someone's wounds by loving them hard enough, where they think they can fix dysfunction by offering endless patience, tolerance, and sacrifice. But here's the truth. You are not a rehabilitation center for broken adults. You are not a therapist in your own relationship. You are not responsible for solving problems you did not create. If you want to protect your future, if you want to live a life of clarity and power, you need to stop emotionally investing before you vet. You need to slow down, observe. Let time reveal patterns, not promises. Let consistency prove worth, not words. Let respect and shared values guide your decisions, not your hunger for attention or fear of being alone. Stop thinking you can save people from themselves. Stop thinking you owe anyone your peace just because they give you validation. Stop believing your sacrifice will transform someone who is unwilling to transform themselves. We live in a world that glorifies instant connections and whirlwind romances, where people mistake the intoxicating rush of early attraction for something deeper and more meaningful. There's something profoundly human about how quickly we can project our hopes onto someone new. How effortlessly we can convince ourselves that this time will be different, that this person, barely known yet intensely felt, might finally be the one who makes sense of all our past heartbreaks. But this tendency to fall for potential, rather than reality, is perhaps the most common relationship trap, one that leads to years of unnecessary pain and disillusionment. The heart wants what it wants, as the saying goes. But what if the heart is an unreliable narrator? What if those overwhelming, early feelings are less about the other person and more about our own unmet needs, our loneliness, our desire to be chosen? When we examine why people fall so quickly, we find it often has little to do with the actual person before them, and everything to do with the story they've already written in their minds. That charming smile becomes proof of kindness, that attentive listening signals emotional depth. Those shared laughs suggest compatibility, all before any real tests or trials have revealed who this person truly is beneath the best behavior of early courtship. This rush to emotional investment creates a dangerous imbalance. By the time red flags appear, the inconsistent behavior, the emotional unavailability, the disrespectful comments dismissed as jokes, we're already attached. The heart has already committed, making excuses, bending standards, negotiating boundaries, all in service of preserving what we've convinced ourselves could be. We tell ourselves we're being understanding, patient, loving, when in truth we're being avoidant of the painful realization that we've invested in a fantasy. The cognitive dissonance sets in. Surely this wonderful person we've imagined wouldn't act this way, so it must be a misunderstanding, a bad day, something we did wrong. And so the cycle begins, where potential becomes the prison we willingly inhabit. What makes this particularly tragic is how it distorts our understanding of love itself. Real love, the kind that sustains, nourishes and grows, cannot exist without clear-eyed seeing. It requires knowing someone fully, their strengths and flaws, and choosing them anyway. But when we fall for potential, we're not choosing the person in front of us. We're choosing the person we hope they'll become. This isn't love, it's projection. And it does a disservice to both people involved, keeping one trapped in unrealistic expectations while preventing the other from ever being truly known. The modern dating landscape exacerbates these tendencies. In an era of endless options and surface-level connections, we've developed a kind of emotional impatience. We want to skip straight to intimacy without doing the work of genuine knowing. Swipe culture conditions us to make snap judgments based on minimal information, training our relational muscles to react rather than reflect. The temporary high of a new match or first date becomes confused with actual connection, and we race toward commitment before establishing whether there's anything substantial beneath the initial spark. This dynamic becomes even more complicated when childhood wounds enter the picture. Many people subconsciously seek out relationships that recreate familiar dynamics, not because they want to be hurt again, but because the subconscious mind confuses familiarity with safety. Someone who grew up with emotionally unavailable parents might find themselves drawn to similar partners, interpreting the same painful patterns as chemistry. The heart races, the stomach flutters, and we mistake these physiological responses, which may simply be our body recognizing a familiar dynamic, for signs of a deep connection. In this way, our very biology can betray us, making the work of conscious vetting all the more crucial. Then there's the pervasive myth that love means fixing. So many people enter relationships believing their care can heal another's wounds, that enough patience and understanding can transform someone who hasn't chosen to transform themselves. This belief often stems from genuine compassion, but ultimately becomes a form of arrogance. The idea that our love possesses some alchemical power that decades of someone's own life experiences couldn't muster. The truth is far less romantic people change when they want to change, and no amount of external love can replace internal work. When we make ourselves responsible for another's growth, we often enable stagnation rather than inspire progress. The fallout from premature, emotional investment manifests in countless ways. The anxious checking of phones for messages that don't come, the constant second guessing of one's own perceptions, the slow erosion of self-esteem as boundaries are continually negotiated downward. Relationships that begin on this shaky foundation often develop a kind of emotional debt, where one person feels owed for their patience and the other feels trapped by expectations they never agreed to meet. Resentment builds on both sides, with each partner feeling fundamentally misunderstood because, in truth, they were never truly known to begin with. Breaking this cycle requires a radical shift in approach. It means recognizing that real connection takes time, not just time spent together, but time across different contexts and circumstances. How someone treats you on a good day matters, far less than how they handle stress, disappointment, or conflict. Their words about who they are carry less weight than the patterns of their actions over months and years. This kind of patient observation runs counter to our instant gratification culture, but it's the only path to relationships built on substance rather than projection. Part of this shift involves reclaiming the word love from its cultural distortions. Love isn't the dizzying rush of infatuation, nor is it the anxious clinging to potential. Real love is a choice made again and again, based on deep knowledge of another's character. It's seeing someone's flaws clearly and deciding those flaws don't undermine their worth. This kind of love can't be rushed, because it depends on information that only time can reveal. The irony is that by slowing down, By resisting the urge to declare love before we truly know someone, we create the conditions for a far more satisfying connection. Boundaries play a crucial role in this process. Clear boundaries aren't walls against intimacy. They're the framework that makes genuine intimacy possible. They help us distinguish between being open and being reckless with our hearts. A boundary might look like refusing to become someone's therapist before becoming their partner, or maintaining other important relationships, even as a new romance blossoms. These intentional limits prevent the kind of emotional enmeshment that clouds judgment and keeps us stuck in unpromising situations. Self-awareness is equally vital. Before we can accurately assess another person, we must understand our own patterns. What draws us in, what blind spots we have, which red flags we tend to rationalize. This requires honest reflection, often with the help of therapy or trusted friends who can provide perspective. Without this self-knowledge, we risk repeating the same mistakes while expecting different results, mistaking our own unresolved issues for romantic destiny. The practical application of this mindset looks like maintaining emotional distance in early dating, not as a game, but as a form of self-protection. It means keeping one's life centered on personal growth and purpose, rather than reorganizing everything around a new relationship. It involves asking hard questions early and observing whether words match actions. Most importantly, it requires walking away when fundamental incompatibilities emerge, rather than staying out of hope or guilt. This approach isn't about becoming cold or calculating in relationships. On the contrary, it's about creating the conditions where real warmth and trust can flourish. By vetting carefully before investing emotionally, we honor both ourselves and the other person. We give relationships the space to develop organically rather than forcing them into predetermined shapes. And when we do choose to commit, we can do so with open eyes and full awareness, which makes that commitment far more meaningful. The rewards of this patient approach extend beyond any single relationship. Each time we resist the pull of premature attachment, we strengthen our discernment and self-trust. We learn that we can withstand the discomfort of uncertainty without rushing to false certainty. We develop the maturity to distinguish between loneliness and genuine connection, between chemistry and compatibility. Over time, this creates a virtuous cycle where we attract healthier partners because we've become more secure in ourselves. Ultimately, the shift from falling for potential to choosing based on reality represents a profound act of self-love. It's a declaration that our time, our peace, and our hearts are too valuable to gamble on maybes. It acknowledges that while we can't control when or how love appears, we can control how we respond to its early whispers. And in that space of